you're in the right place. This is the Eatfluencer Podcast, and I'm your host, Dr. Maggie Landes. Together, we are going to unpack everything about eating and discover the what, when, and how that will let you lead your best life. This is not your doctor's conversation about nutrition. Today is when you can start to love eating again. Let food be food and you be you. Get ready to get eatfluenced. Hi there, everyone. Welcome to the Eatfluencer Podcast. This is Maggie Landes, and I'm your host here. If you're new, I'm thrilled that you're joining me today. You have joined for a really good episode. If you are one of my returning listeners, as always, I am so grateful for your ongoing support. And I have a couple things I want to just tell you before we get started on our episode today. First of all, I have to apologize. My voice is a little nasally, and I'm not particularly a person who suffers with seasonal allergies, but I think I may have a little bit of that going on now because it is, the very end of April. This is like spring in Texas, which lasts about 2 weeks, and it's tucked in there between the polar Armageddon, that we call winter, and the seventh circle of Hades, which we call summer. There's this little snippet of time where everything is blooming, and anybody who has even a flinch of allergies is like sniffly and nasally. So I know it's annoying to listen to my voice like that, but I'm going to make you do it anyway because this is good content today that you don't want to go without. So here's the deal. This is episode 30. We are talking about top tips for raising intuitive eaters. And I'm going to get into that in one moment, but I have an announcement for an opportunity that's going on next week. If you're listening to this in real time, this episode is being released on April 28th. And I want you to know that next week, I'm having a live masterclass about overeating. It's called Overcoming Overeating Without Dieting. And listen, you need this, I need this, everybody needs this. This is a major recurring theme. The struggle with overeating, it's probably one of the top things that people approach me about and ask about when they're talking about nutrition. And the problem is, the diet culture answer to overeating is to then double down on your restriction. But I'm going to talk in this masterclass how that's exactly not what you should do. And that ends up throwing us into a chronic pattern of binging and restricting that for many of us has lasted decades. So we're going to get out of it. It's 45 minutes long. I'll even go over if we need to answer all of your questions. I've got a lot of real concrete tips on how to approach the problem of overeating without dieting. You just want to be part of this, I promise. So I also opened up 2 separate sessions. So whether you're a person who has more flexibility during the day or more flexibility in the evening, hopefully you can pick one and attend live. It's going to be May 3rd in the evening and May 4th, which is Tuesday in the morning. There are replays available if you can't make either one, but you can find all the information you need in the show notes here, on my website, in my Instagram bio, all the places. And please ask me if you have questions, but you want to register. The bonuses will only be included if you register. The replay will only be included if you register. And let me tell you that one of the bonuses is going to be a free coaching session with me, one-on-one. So if nothing else, you want to just register and pick that up. So go to the website, go to my Instagram bio, go to the show notes, sign up for next week's masterclass. Okay, that out of the way. Let's get to the episode today that you came for. So, why have I not addressed this issue of kids and intuitive eating before, right? It seems kind of weird to think about it because I'm a pediatrician by practice. I'm a nutritionist. I'm a mom. This seems like really in my wheelhouse. But I really hadn't kind of open this can of worms, at least really publicly on this podcast, because you can't work on the kids until the parents, specifically the moms, can sort of get their head on straight in terms of thinking about intuitive eating and starting to sort of undiet their relationship with food. But I think it's time now. Honestly, I've had enough people ask and increasing sort of inquiries about, well, okay, what do I do with my family, with my students, with my nieces and nephews and all these things. So I want to start talking about how to extend all these concepts of intuitive eating and the anti-diet work to the whole family, including the children. Because I hear horror story after horror story after horror story about kids getting weighed at school, which I just think should never happen. For kids getting honestly weight shamed and sort of body stigmatized in the pediatrician's office, which is very sad, but unfortunately it happens. And I've even met moms who are hesitant to take their kids in because they really want to protect them from what the doctor might say in front of their, let's say preschool age or early school age child. And man, that's a tough spot because those kids need to get in. There are so many things they miss if they don't go to the doctor on a regular schedule. So, we got to get rid of that. And, school health classes, these sort of, I want to say public health fairs, or, I was at a run. My kids participate in this community children's exercise thing, which I think is super cool. But they had these, vendors set up, sort of exhibitors, I guess is a better word, talking about, healthy food and how to eat right, and how to all this moralizing of eating. It's coming from all the directions. And then you wonder how these little kids hearing this, seeing this, are going to end up being adults like us with any other mindset. I mean, we really have to take down this diet culture and disrupt this narrative for ourselves, but we have got to do it for the next generation of up and coming, eaters and influencers and professionals. It's, so many people come to me after chronic dieting for decades. We're talking 30, 40, 50 years of dieting, and they started because of something that happened in their childhood, because of an experience they had, because of something someone said to them, because of something they were made to feel about their body, about the foods they were choosing. I mean, that is a total tragedy, and we have to stop. So that's what we're talking about today. And I'm very glad you're part of this conversation because, the most direct way we're going to do this is parents and children, and specifically mothers and children, and very, very specifically mothers and young girls and daughters. But anybody who's around kids, this is important. Whether you have grandkids, you babysit, you're a coach, a sports coach, you're a mentor, you work with youth group from the church or any sort of social activity where there's kids and families. Like everything we do is important, and the kids are being changed by what they see and hear. So we have a accountability to them, even to the ones that we don't have immediately living under our roof. So here's the good news. In terms of intuitive eating, kids are hands down the best intuitive eaters. They were born that way. And the younger the kid, the better the intuitive eater. I mean, frankly, a baby coming out of the womb after birth, breastfeeding is the sine qua non picture of intuitive eating. Everything after that is us having screwed them up, really, if you want to be honest about it. Even toddlers are really pretty good. I mean, think about if you've spent any time with a toddler, they'll eat when they want to eat and they won't eat when they don't want to eat. And there's really no way you're going to change that. We are the ones that introduce them to diet culture. We are the ones that give them language and narrative around food. We talk about their bodies. We tell them how to talk about their own bodies. We are modeling all this judgment and criticism and anxiety around food. We are showing and doing that to them and for them. They don't come out that way. The kids are really just the purest example of an intuitive eater. And what we need to do is get them back there and not erode that intuitive eating ability that's already sort of in them biologically from the minute go. So, not to despair. And I'm not here to shame any parents or beat anybody up. I mean, I have only really adopted this way of life myself in the last several years. And so, my kids are 10 and 13 now. So their early childhood, I was heavy into my diet culture. Of course, that's a whole other episode talking about diet culture, telling you to get your pre-baby body back and all that business. We'll talk about that next time. But, kids are more flexible than we are, and they will change the way they think and believe and act anytime as a reflection of what we lead them to do. So frankly, that's why I have put all my efforts in this sphere of influence towards the adults, and particularly the moms, because I feel like we've got to get them kind of on board first, because the kids will follow our lead. So what I want to do today, before you get tired of listening to my nasally allergy voice, I want to give you 3 tangible, tactical things you can do, 3 strategies that you can start doing today to help your kids and the kids that you're around stay intuitive eaters, relearn the intuitive eating, revert to the intuitive eating that they know, and really actionable items, because that's what I like to leave you all with, is things to do, because that's how we change, is by doing. So here's the number one thing, and this is probably the number one out of all the numbers. No more talk about bodies. Period. That's it. Unless you're talking about strong or fast or energetic or sleepy or some other neutral term, no more talking about the appearance of bodies. None. So that means no poking, pinching, teasing. Even the youngest kids, they absorb that differently than we intend to deliver a message when we're just sort of fooling around with their body and squeezing their tummy and stuff like that. But you don't know where that's landing in their little immature child brain. So none of that. No comments about people if they appear to have gained weight. No comments if they appear to have lost weight. Okay, so obviously not with the child. I mean, you don't say that to the child. First of all, if you think your young child who is still growing, who is prepubertal, is losing weight, you need to take them to the doctor, because it is not normal at any time for children in that age to lose weight. So that being said, even if you have a teenager who's lost weight, and it's noticeable, don't make comments about that, because see, even though I know it seems like a great idea and a sort of motivational tactic, you don't know what you're reinforcing. I mean, you're basically reinforcing the pursuit of smallness, that they're more valuable when they're smaller, that you respect them more if they either continue to lose weight or keep a smaller weight. You don't know what how hungry they are if they've been restricting food, or how much they're compulsively exercising. You don't know if you're praising a early stage of an eating disorder or something. So just the easiest way to get over this is just don't do it. So no commenting about other people either, like, oh, wow, your friend so-and-so looks really skinny. She looks good. Or, those pants make her look thin, or something like that. Just none. No talk. And here's the other thing, and this will be harder for you. No comments about your body. Okay? Oh, these jeans make me look fat. Or, oh, I can't, if I, if I eat all this, I'm going to get so fat. No jumping in the back of the pictures or jumping out of the pictures. No sitting there on the sideline of the pool sweating like a farm animal because you refuse to wear a swimsuit when it's 10,000 degrees outside. No talking about your body. And it just becomes like a non-issue. When we don't talk about their body, we don't talk about other people's bodies, we don't talk about our body. It's just not a conversation. Now, here's what you're going to have to do is, if they are watching anything on TV or movies, they are, videos on YouTube or whatever, they're seeing fat phobia and diet culture. I promise 100% they're seeing it. It is toxic the way that people in large bodies are portrayed in the media. And it's going to be basically impossible for them to not see that unless you have literally zero electronics in your house. So unless you're like on Little House on the Prairie or something, you're going to have to realize that they're going to see that stuff. And if you are seeing them see it, you need to call it out and have that conversation right there on the spot so that they can start to understand that just because that's how the world is portrayed does not mean that it's healthy or right or kind or inclusive or anything. The other thing too, and this is tough, is when kids are going up in clothes sizes, as they always do. And trust me, I just went and spent $1 bazillion at Walmart buying my son new shorts because he's grown, 3 or 4 inches in a year. But you have to just remember, like, the language you use when you're like, oh, all your clothes are too small. We have to go get you bigger clothes because you've gotten so big or whatever. Now, I mean, big meaning tall is one thing. Big meaning big, especially when you're talking to a pre-adolescent girl, that's, the language is really careful. You gotta be really careful. So, kids are going to go up in sizes. That's just normal. They're going to grow bigger bodies and get, they're going to change, for years. So just sort of normalizing that, not making a big production about it is good. So in summary, the top tip, no talking about bodies. Body conversation off limits, no matter what it is, period, end. Okay? Number 2, try as best you can to neutralize the language about food. Food is neutral, and that's really one of the fundamental principles of intuitive eating and this non-diet approach to your food relationship, is that it's just equal. They're just things. They're inanimate things. It's not meaningful. It's not emotional. The food doesn't have a feeling. It doesn't have a value system. It's not like responsive to us. It's just literally a thing. How we use it and how we incorporate it into our lives is what gives it the meaning. So real obvious stuff, obviously, is to, don't say stuff like, oh, that's bad. Donuts make you gain weight. That's just junk food. All those kind of extremely polarizing language around food is going to not be very helpful. But here's the subtle place where diet culture is sneaking in. When we are teaching our little kids, if you eat your vegetables, then you'll get a cookie. Well, that's basically, without saying it, telling them that the vegetables are going to be terrible. So if you can suffer through that, then you will get a cookie, which is like this magical special prize food that you only get if you do the other thing, that there's like a transaction with foods. I mean, this is like the little preschool version of, you having to go extra to the gym tomorrow because you drank an extra glass of wine tonight. Like it's the same thing on the little kid scale. We've got to get away from that. Now, that does not mean that kids have access to everything all the time, and there are no sort of there's no order or boundaries with eating in your house. You're in charge of what comes into the home. You're the one purchasing the food. You're the one storing the food. You're the one deciding what's available, when meal times are. that's your choice. So you do have power in that. But once you decide what is going to be available at a certain mealtime or snack time, then they get to choose what they eat from that. So I'm not suggesting that you become a short order cook and like customize everything. What I'm saying is once you've made the decision, this is it, then you serve it, you let them choose what and how much to eat and what not to eat. That's their choice. That's where they get that autonomy. How much are they hungry for, when they want to stop, what order they want to eat things in. If you can kind of level the playing field with all the foods, and I mean literally like having a plate and having, the little pieces of chicken and the little cut up apples and the biscuit and the 2 cookies for dessert, like all on the plate at the same exact time, and let them eat. And who cares? What difference does it make if they eat the cookie first or eat the chicken first? Like if what they have is on this plate, they'll eat while they're hungry and they'll stop when they're not. I mean, they're just eating and feeling the food in their bodies. They are not doing the kinds of things that you and I are doing and judging the food and counting the calories in their head and deciding, it's just, they're not overthinking it the way we are. And so we need to not overthink it on their behalf. Just provide them the food. You choose what is served. They choose how to eat it. And really trying to eliminate like I said, the polarizing language so that, it's hard. Neutralizing your language around food is easier said than done. I mean, if you try a little exercise, go to your pantry and see if you could describe all the food in your pantry without using the words good, bad, healthy, fattening, junk, guilty, treat, like all that sort of stuff. It's hard because we are so indoctrinated into describing food with that language, but it doesn't have to be. It can just be, the name of the food. We don't have to describe everything and give it a meaning. But you have to try, okay? Because it's everywhere, and the kids learn that this food has power over them, and because we teach it to them. And I mean we, meaning us, the media, the packaging, the food industry, the school system, everywhere. I heard an anecdote like recently from somebody where their child was, I guess, doing virtual school still, because of COVID and everything. And their health class, I think this was probably a late elementary school age child, 4th or 5th grade. And they had to go do a healthy food scavenger hunt in their house and come back to the camera after they had run around their kitchen and made a list of all the best foods in the house. And of course, best, according to this scavenger hunt, was lowest in sugar, lowest in fat, and that's the problem. I don't have a problem with teaching kids how to read labels. I'm not suggesting we make them ignorant of what is in foods, but why can't the conversation be, hey, I want you to go, find a food that has the lowest amount of sugar. And then I want you to go find a food that has the highest amount of protein, or like what we can use words just objectively as they are instead of then making it the best foods and the no foods and all that sort of stuff, the junk foods. Really just teaching them the language of nutrition, I think, is very reasonable. And even my kids like to read labels in the sense of just reading labels to practice understanding what is on a label and why it's there and what those things do for our body, and describing in a age appropriate way what fiber does, what protein does, what vitamin C does, but the qualifying adjectives about good, bad, fattening, clean, whatever, that's the part that we have to let go of. Okay. So number 1, no body talk. Number 2, neutralize your food language. And number 3 is really about enabling patience and curiosity and allowing kids to explore their own relationship with food without pressure. And this really works for adults too. This is really this is the whole transformation when you go from viewing eating as a rule book and a punishing, restricted experience, and everything is limited, everything is rationed, everything is sort of sterile and algebraic. That's how I help people get out of that and learn how to approach food and eating and cooking with curiosity and excitement and enthusiasm and sort of this hopeful, like open-mindedness. That's what I teach you to do in my coaching programs. It's, and that's, once an adult can do that, it's much easier to then help your children do that. It's about learning, not labeling. The other trick too is to come from a place of adding. Like, what can we add, learn about, and be curious about, and as the adult in a home with children, you still are in control. I don't want to give you the impression that it's a total free-for-all and you can't manage the availability of healthy food to your children. But there's a big difference in what it sounds like, looks like, feels like to a child when you say, well, we can't have ice cream tonight because that's bad and we just had it last night and we're going to get fat. Okay, that's different than saying, you know what, I decided instead of ice cream tonight, it's going to be berry night. We're going to have berries for for dessert. Would you like strawberries or blueberries? Because I'm going to the store this afternoon. Do you want them both? Well, how many do you want? Can you help me cut them up? Can you help me count them out? Do you think we should eat them with a fork or should we use our fingers? I mean, there's a lot of sort of exploration and I just want to keep saying open-minded, but this sort of open-ended learning about food that doesn't have to be, and basically by giving them the choice, do you want strawberries or blueberries? I mean, you essentially made ice cream not the choice for that night, but it didn't sound like no ice cream, it's bad. It sounded like, oh my gosh, these berries are great. Let's figure out how we're going to wash them and cut them and serve them and how many should we have? Let's count them out. Blah, blah, blah. I just think it comes from a different place. And that's where the kids are getting the sort of between the lines messaging. The other thing too is give them appropriate portions, let them explore, let them stop eating if they want to. They are not manipulating their plate and their food intake to cut calories and hit macros and all this nonsense that we do. That's what we do. They are just eating because they're intuitive eaters and they eat and they respond to food. You have to remember, the experience of eating food is not like chewing it up, swallowing, and deciding if you like it. I mean, just looking at something, touching it, smelling it, picking it up, touching it to your tongue, putting it back down, licking it, biting a little bit, spitting it out. There's 20 steps before eating it in total. So, kids have got to have that space to be curious and to be allowed to stop and move forward with that experience at a comfortable place. We're giving them our problems and we need to not do that. We just need to, set up what's available to them and let them do the eating. I mean, that's sort of, it's a complete division of labor. Like, we serve, they eat. Or they don't eat, whatever. They are not going to starve if they reject some of what you serve. Because guess what? They're intuitive eaters. We already talked about that. So the next mealtime, they'll be a little bit hungrier if they ate a little bit less earlier. And they listen to their bodies 1,000,000 times better than us. And involve them. That curiosity with food and that sort of lifelong interest in the food-body relationship starts when you are exposed to it. So the earliest age that's appropriate, have them handling the food, helping you put it in the grocery cart, washing things, peeling things, stirring stuff up, putting things in the pot, putting it on the plate, getting stuff out of the refrigerator. This familiarity will breed confidence, and that's what we want to empower them with. Will they love everything and eat everything that they touch? No, of course not. Just because they help you in their me help way does not mean that they're going to sit down and wolf down a whole bowl of it. But the odds of them eating something that they've never, ever, ever, ever seen, never had that first touch point with, never had an experience with, the odds of that is about zero. So, really exposing them to stuff in a comfortable, non-confrontational way, not guilting, labeling, judging. Just, it takes them being curious and you being patient. And so that's the third thing. So just to refresh what we went over here is how to grow and support your intuitive eaters. And I say support because your kids are already intuitive eaters, better than us. Number one, no body talk about them, others, or yourself. Number two, neutralize your language with food. And number three, exposure, patience, and curiosity. Okay, everybody can do this. It's actually, easier for your kids to do this than it is for you to do this. They are closer to the origin of intuitive eating. So like I said, the best way for kids to develop this relationship with food that is healthy, that serves them, is for the parents and especially for the moms, to really sort of transform themselves. So if this sounds interesting, if this sounds actionable in your home, I want to help you. All right. And this is what I do. This is what I do. And this is how I do it. I leave you with actual tools. There is a lot of mindset work, but it is not just woo-woo mindset work without any real sort of skill development. I really want you to seriously consider my group coaching program if this sounds like something you'd like to do in order to heal your relationship with food and help your family so that your kids, particularly your daughters, don't end up where you are now at the age of 30, 40, 50, trying to stop dieting. So let's get this sorted out for yourself. Get this sorted out for your kids. My next group cohort is starting May 10th. Group coaching is my jam because I think the community of the group is really amplifies the message and amplifies the growth that everybody experiences. The wait list is open now. And like I mentioned before, my all my stuff is on my Instagram bio, on my website, www.maggielandesmd.com, or it's all in the show notes here. If you'll just click into the show notes on your podcast player, you will find everything you need. Okay? So I hope this was helpful for you today. You can tell I get excited about this because food, health, nutrition, cooking, kids, parenting. This is my jam, folks. This is what I do. So I love it. Thank you for listening to me. And I appreciate you being here as I do every week. And I hope you'll return to learn more about the anti-diet approach and this disruption of diet culture. All right? Thanks so much. Until next time. Thank you so much for being here today. If you love what you've learned, follow me on social media at Maggie Landes MD, and you'll never miss a thing. You can also check out my website at maggielandesmd.com and sign up to be part of our community of eaters. Thanks again for stopping by. We'll talk again soon.